Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Hi, and welcome to episode 344 of Martha Runs the World. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I truly appreciate it each and every week. Many runners say stretching is overrated. If I ask a dozen runners if they stretch, how many do you think would say they do? How many would say they stretch before their run? How many would say they stretched after their runs? Or on non-running days? I bet it wouldn't even be half, if they were honest. I admit that I probably don't do it as much as I should. But right now, right here, in this episode, it's a good time to start changing that. Why should we warm up with stretches before running? I remember watching this runner up the street from where I live. He left his apartment building to run and just started running. No walking, no warm-up, he just ran. Pretty fast, too. Now, of course, he could have warmed up in his apartment and then took off. I don't know. But I kind of doubt it. It got me thinking about the vast majority of runners who don't stretch at all or warm up at all. Before asking muscles to suddenly increase their activities, such as going for a run, it's important to give them preparation time. When we are seated, many of our muscles contract or shorten because of the position. But during running, these muscles are stretched. If the shift from sitting to running is done too quickly, there is a risk of injury. A pre-stretched muscle can handle and resist stress better than an unstretched one. It prepares your body by increasing muscle temperature, enhanced blood flow, and improving flexibility, reducing the risk of strains and sprains. Let's try to say that 5 times. Oh my goodness. One of the biggest causes of injury in new runners is they start running without a proper warm-up routine. Some sort of stretching is very important prior to running or any exercise for both injury prevention as well as to improve the quality of your workout. However, the generic term stretching includes different types of exercises. Ideally, your pre-run warm-up should include some dynamic activity that replicates the motion of your workout. This allows the muscles to be slowly stretched in a controlled manner. This can be done either before you start running or after 5 to 10 minutes of a gentle jog. Yeah, that's from the website. I'll give links of where I got this information. Dynamic stretching before runs and static stretching after runs. That's generally the rule of thumb. In doing research for this episode, I realized that there's a huge misunderstanding in running with the term stretching. Many runners think that because the headline says stretching, that they shouldn't stretch at all before a run. But dynamic workouts, dynamic exercises is stretching, and you should do that before a run. They think that they can just start running without a workout, without a warm-up at all, and that's not true. Some dynamic stretching or dynamic warm-ups is really important. Now here's 5 tips to an efficient warm-up. If you want to benefit from the positive effects of a warm-up, then these are the recommended quote-unquote rules. Target the muscles you need for a race. A marathon will require a different warm-up than a 5K or 10K. Finish your warm-up right as close to the start of the race as possible. The full effects do not last long after your warm-up. After 45 minutes of rest, your muscle temperature will return to normal. There will be no trace of the warm-up effect. The shorter and more intense the race is, the longer and more intense your warm-up routine needs to be. Increase the intensity of your warm-up routine slowly and never start with jumping or sprinting exercises. The overall intensity of your warm-up should not exceed the anaerobic threshold. There's just some really good rules, quote unquote, to follow for your warm-up routine. As I said, there is some confusion and perhaps misunderstanding when it comes to what stretching is. Dynamic stretching and static stretching are both essential to runners. Dynamic stretching can also be called dynamic movement or dynamic warm-up or whatever you want to call it, but it is still stretching essentially. If you use the term dynamic movement, then we can say there should be no static stretching before a run. That kind of makes it clearer, and maybe then that's what some of the experts mean when they say there should be no stretching before a run. Maybe that's what they mean. Dynamic movements are also perfect to do on alternate days with no running or recovery days, or on recovery days. What are dynamic movements? Dynamic stretches for runners involve controlled movements that mimic the motions of running, preparing the body for the activity. I'm sure many of these include exercises you already do in a normal strength training. And the great news is you don't have to do that many before you run. Just a few will get you nice and warmed up. The whole goal of it is to be warmed up before you take off for a run. To reiterate, dynamic stretches before running. So I don't want any confusion here. These are stretches that you do. Yes, only use dynamic stretches. I read a whole thread of runners saying, don't stretch, do a dynamic workout. Well, dynamic workouts are stretches. It's just a different kind of stretch. So they're confused. It doesn't help beginning runners to think they don't have to stretch. So they just start running without any kind of stretch, and that's how they get injured. So let's not confuse beginners by saying you don't stretch. You do, it's just a different type of stretch. So let's understand dynamic stretching more. A dynamic workout is more than just stretching. It involves a series of controlled, flowing movements that prepare the body for the demands of running by increasing blood flow, improving flexibility, and enhancing muscle activation. Exercise examples of these are leg swings, squats, walking lunges, arm circles, donkey kicks. Improving range of motion is an essential component of fitness training. The risk factors associated with poor flexibility include faulty posture, altered running mechanics, and risk of injury and pain. That's why we recommend stretching every day. It's just that important. Dynamic stretching is a form of stretching that works the muscles and joints used on runs. Doing this type of stretching before every run can prepare your body and reduce your risk of injury. When you perform dynamic stretches, you are actively moving your joints and muscles. It prepares you for running by getting more blood and oxygen into your muscles, raising your core body temperature, helping your joints move more smoothly. Now, after you run, you're going to do a different type of stretch. It's called static stretching. And I think this is what all those who don't understand dynamic stretching and static stretching, the difference of those two, I think they're thinking of static stretching only. No, of course you should not do this before you run, but they only think of this. They don't think of the others. Static stretching involves sustaining a stretch in a particular position for an extended period of time. The goal of static stretching is to improve muscular flexibility, reduce tension in muscle system, and enhance recovery at a more rapid rate. Running involves repetition in big muscle group activation, and static stretching plays an important role in helping those overworked muscles stretch and relax following activity. You will build up a lot of tension in running, and static stretching helps loosen up those muscles used in running. 4 benefits of static stretching. We all know that stretching is not the most exciting or enjoyable activity, but a great stretching routine will aid in running performance. What should you expect to gain from incorporating static stretching into your normal running routine? Well, first, it doesn't take very long. It only takes a couple minutes, so it's not very long. But you will gain a few things. Improved flexibility over time. A consistent static stretching program will increase muscle and tendon length, which will improve overall flexibility. Enhance muscle recovery. Holding stretches following running will improve circulation to muscles, which aids in removal of metabolic waste that is a product of intense exercise. This, along with stretching, returning muscle to their corrected resting position, reduces muscle discomfort and injury. It will also help you if you tend to get cramping. This will help reduce cramping in your muscles. Injury prevention. Stretching brings balance to muscle groups and allows muscles to work better together and allows for proper form. Static stretching will also keep joint mobility high, which is essential for joint mechanics and running. Optimize performance. Muscles that are at their prime length not only limits injury, but also optimizes performance in running. Our muscles have an optimal amount of tension that they will work their best. Consistent stretching will allow muscles to be set to their best length, which will in turn result in greater performance in your running. What static stretches are best for runners? Well, there are so many muscles and a variety of stretches to perform that it may be easier to get lost in finding the best ones. But the focus needs to be on key muscle groups that take the most strain in running. These muscle groups are primarily hamstrings, quadriceps, calves, and hip flexors. Well, how do you get the most out of static stretching? Timing is everything. Static stretching is performed to reduce muscle tension and relax muscles after exercise. Never static stretch cold muscles. Save your static stretching for after you run and try to do it as soon as you are finished. Don't wait an hour or two after when the muscles are cold again. Do it right after you're done. Only dynamic stretching should be done before a workout, as I've said a few times in this podcast, in this episode. Don't bounce. Hold stretches gently and steadily. Bouncing into a stretch can lead to muscle strain and injury. Breathe. Focus on easy and deep breathing to get the most out of your stretching. Avoid overstretching. Static stretches should feel gentle and not painful. If it hurts, back off the stretch a little bit. Hold it longer. The key to static stretching is to sustain the stretch for long enough to get the benefit. Hold each stretch for 45 seconds to 1 minute. Post-run. After you run, this is when it's done. Static stretches are done after you run, as I've said. Recovery time is the time to focus on specific flexibility in areas you felt on the run and to know you had trouble with. That's when you say, okay, well, my calves are really super tight on this run. Let's say you're doing a training run for your upcoming marathon and you had to get 12 miles out or something, and your calves felt really, really tight. So in your static stretching, you want to focus on those calves and do some stretching that's going to help out those calves. Post-run is perfect time for static stretching. Your muscles are warm, worked, and infused with blood. You'll reach into further ranges of motion because of it. and show your body that it is safe to move into these areas without getting hurt. The more often you expose your body to these positions, the easier it will be to move into them on future occasions. So if you do static stretching in these tight areas after you run, the next time you run, they probably won't be as tight. The great thing about this is that you have a fresh perspective on how your body handled the run. Restrictions that you felt while running can be immediately addressed without having to worry about a drop in performance or increased risk of injury. This can be a time of correction and getting to know your body that is hard to replicate otherwise. And some great static stretches and I'm going to have links for all this stuff for you. But some great static stretches are upper back stretch, shoulder stretch, hamstring stretch, calf stretch, hip adductor stretch, and quad stretch. And there will be links to everything on the website. I'm going to have links to the websites that I got information from. You will have a plethora of information to help you with your pre-run warm-up and your post-run cool down, I should say. And really, this is something that I have not spent enough time doing. I realize that, yeah, practice what you preach, Martha. I don't do enough time. I don't spend enough time doing this. So I need to spend a little bit more time. And really, all you need to do is like 3 good dynamic exercises before you run and 3 good static stretches after you run. And that's probably enough. Really, that's really all you need is just a good workout and maybe a nice walk before you run and a nice walk afterwards. Combine that with the stretches and you should be golden. That's really all you need. And that's not a whole lot of time. We're not asking to do an extra hour of stuff. No, we're not Kenyan runners here. At least I don't think so. But no, this is doable. It's not bad. All right, so how is your running this week? Mine is doing very, very well. I have to say, I had my long work week this week. I worked over the weekend, and when I work over the weekend, I go out after work on Saturday. I get off work Saturday at 5, and I usually go out to get a 3 or 4 mile run in. And my run Saturday night was great. Oh my gosh, I can really tell the difference in my running. Now, I'm not doing long runs right now. I'm focusing on 5 miles and less. I went out running on Monday and Tuesday as well this past week. But I went out Saturday night and did 3 miles, and it felt really good. I ran most of the 3 miles. I did walk a little bit, but I ran a lot of it, and it felt very strong. I got some really nice, good miles. I haven't been as slow as I was before. It's a little faster. Okay, to most of you, I'm still slow. But for me, relatively speaking, I'm doing pretty good. My running has improved. It's gotten a little faster. My whole goal right now is there's a turkey trot 5-mile race that I do every year in Goldgate Park. And the last few years, I've only been doing there's a 5-mile and 3-mile. The 3-mile is just like just a fun walk run. You don't get your picture taken. You don't get timed. If you do the 5-mile, you do, but you should be able to run most of that 5-mile. And I haven't been able to do that since I've had my hip surgery a few years ago. And this year, I want to do the 5-mile. I want to be timed. I want to be a part of that. And especially now, I'm not doing any big, long races. I've always gone for the longer race. And they're expensive. And I can't go out of town. I can't travel out of town. Every time I want to do a long race, I have to rent a car. I have to travel because I can't get to races close. So I might as well go out of town, right? But this time I'm not. I'm going to stick around and I'm going to do this turkey trot and see how it goes. Next year, I'm not sure. I may not do any races. I don't know. I have to save money. So we'll see how it goes. Got a couple years till I move. I have to really be frugal and stash money away like a chipmunk stashes acorns. So we'll see how it goes. That's a little ways in the future. We'll talk about that later on. But I'll tell you, right now, I'm having more fun with running than I have in a long time. I always feel I do want to do longer distances. I think I want to try, I know, well, no, I know next year I want to do a self-supported 50K around San Francisco. That is one of my goals next year. I I'd like to do the Ruth Anderson again next year. So maybe I'm going to do that next year. So I might do that after I do my self-supported 50K. I always felt so much pressure doing the longer races, and I'm not too good with race pressure. I get kind of, I don't know. I was watching, I don't know if you watch the TV show The Bear. It's my favorite show right now. I just finished up with season 2. I'm a little behind. And Sydney, one of the characters in it, finally opened Carmen's restaurant. And when it was opened and the stress got to her, she got sick. And she got sick after the opening. And sometimes I don't get sick, but I feel pressure kind of like that. I don't necessarily get sick to my stomach, but I feel stressed and really bad when I should feel happy and excited. So some people feel stressed differently. Some people thrive off stress like that, off the excitement off a race. I feel kind of not happy about it. It's not fun for me. Race pressure a lot of times isn't the greatest thing for me. So I'm not a big race person because I don't like the pressure of races. I know it's weird to sound, it's weird sounding, isn't it? A lot of people, most runners love races and they love the excitement of races and they love doing races. I see the same people doing races every single weekend. I couldn't do a race every single weekend. It's not, well, number one, I couldn't afford it. But number two, I don't like the stress of races, and the stress of race would get to me if I did it every weekend. So yeah, I can't. That's not me. I might do the Ruth Anderson next year again. I don't know. We'll see. But let me focus on the turkey trot 5 mile first and see how I do with that. And I'll continue on. That's my big goal right now is to do the 5 mile and to do it pretty well. I don't want to, of course I'm not going to be fast because there's a lot of fast runners in that race, but I want to hold my own. So we'll see how I do. All right. So that is it for today. And thank you so much for joining me. I truly appreciate it. And thank you so much for putting up my rambling right there. I had a few things I had to get off my chest. Yeah. And if you watch The Bear, isn't that a great show? I know it has nothing to do with running, but I love that show so much. Anyway, so that is it for today. And thank you so much. The website is martharunstheworld.com, and all the links for the running part of the show will be on the website. If you want to email me, it's martharunstheworld@gmail.com. And until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.